Loud and Quiet presents Midnight Chats.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Loud and Quiet interview podcast. Thank you for joining us once again, or maybe this is the first time you've listened. The good thing about the way we've been doing this and choosing the people that we interview is that sometimes someone might just come by and discover us purely for a one-off because they happen to be a fan of that artist, which is completely fine. Maybe this is the first time and the last time you will listen to this. I hope not. You can, of course, subscribe to the Midnight Chats either on iTunes or Stitcher, I believe, is the big one that are on Android phones. Or there's many others on Android. I think Android get a better deal. You can pick up podcasts from everywhere on Android. So find us. We're across all of those things. Or indeed, just enjoy this one episode because maybe you've tuned in purely as a fan of Blanck Mass, who is also a member, one half of Fuck Buttons, a band who have an expletive in their name, as I've just proven by saying that. But they're an amazing duo of Benjamin John Power, who is also Blanck Mass, who I'm speaking to today, and a guy called Andrew Hung, who met in Worcester when they were skateboarding as younger guys. And they've had an amazing career so far and released some very challenging and very interesting electronic music that's kind of it's inspired by noise music and punk music as much as it is electronic music. They infamously soundtracked some of the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in 2012. I speak about that a little bit with Ben, but not much, because I feel like it might be the kind of thing that has ended up being the only thing that people speak to him about. We were mainly meeting up to speak about his new album, his solo album as Blanck Mass, which is called World Eater. It's his third album, and it's a great record. It comes out next month on the 3rd of March via an amazing label in the States called Sacred Bones, and it is a angry record for an angry time, I guess. But it's actually still got a lot of joy in it. I don't want to get too bogged down in analysing the record and what's so great about it. Basically, we're big fans at Loud and Quiet of both Fuck Buttons and Ben's solo work as Blanck Mass. And I met him in the most amazing place, in an amazing recording studio here in London in St John's Wood, which is, for anyone who hasn't been to that area of London or around there at all, it's a very posh part of town. It's very posh. It's around the corner from Abbey Road Recording Studios. And RAC is, as you'll hear, it's based in a old school. It used to be a Victorian school until a guy called Mickey Most from in the 60s was a record producer. He produced all sorts of people like Herman's Hermits, and I think he might have been the guy that also produced You Sexy Thing by Hot Chocolate. Slightly different feel to Herman Hermits, but he was a great record producer, and he started this recording studio, which is where I met Ben, and we sat in what was his office, and he died in 2003, and since then they've kind of left his office as almost as a, I don't know if shrine's the right word, but a museum piece to Mickey Most. And it's an amazing old school recording studio office. It's still got his original massive hulking wooden desk there, and his old chair that he'd sit behind every day, and all of these gold discs on the wall. I was just really excited to be in that room, really. And I had a great conversation with Ben there. We were joined also by one of Ben's managers, or certainly part of his management team, lovely woman called Steph, who features on this podcast briefly. She inadvertently became our fact checker. I don't think she realised she was signing up for that when she sat in the room with us. But that third voice that you can hear is Steph. So thanks to Steph for clearing up some facts that we weren't too sure on. And let's just get into this now then. This is my conversation with Benjamin John Power, who records under Blanck Mass when he's not in Fuck Buttons. I do have it in good authority, we don't mention it here in this conversation, that Fuck Buttons will be back with a new record, hopefully next year. They are going to make some more music together. But for now, it's all about Blanck Mass and Ben's new record, which is called World Eater, and that's out on the 3rd of March on Sacred Bones. This is a pretty special room to be in for this.
Yes, yeah.
We normally
do famous Rack Studios.
Yeah. This is quite exciting for me because I don't, even though I do what I do, I don't really get to go to many recording studios.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a really infamous one.
Yes, yeah.
And in a lovely area of London.
Yes, it is.
And this used to be a school, right?
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
I was doing a bit of reading up.
Yes, it was a school.
We're getting a nod. We're getting a nod over
by
here.
Somebody in the know.
Yeah. I think I was reading just a little bit about it, and I think it used to be a Victorian school, which I guess once you know that, you kind of get that from the outside of it.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
I don't know what room this would have been. This feels like it would have been...
Well, this would have been the office.
The office of the school.
This part was a theatre.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's like the stage area.
We are on what would have been the stage of the school. Wow.
We've got our historian.
Yeah,
back here,
this is great.
This is so really I don't need to answer anything.
No. It's okay. That's great. It's have you been here before? So what I was going to ask is so why are we here? Why have I come to meet you here?
Well, my managers work out of here. They work out of the office. In fact, you can see them just over here. And our
is that them in the little corner one over there?
Yeah, Dave's somewhere over there. And our local historian over here as well is works for the management.
Excellent. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And have you recorded here at all?
No, I couldn't afford that.
This is because this is like quite old school, isn't it?
Yeah, you got Abbey Road right just round the corner as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a similar thing. Yeah. There is something kind of very exciting and special about recording. I find personally, but maybe that's because I'm not a musician. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it from I've been recording from home for a while now, but can I can swear, right?
Yeah, you can swear.
Okay. So I have to check. So with Fuck Buttons, our last couple of our first two albums, we actually went into a studio, and it's kind of, it's like an event. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to get it done within this kind of space of time, or else you have to go back.
Is that a stress that is?
I mean, no. I mean, we've never written in the studio, if you see what I mean. We've always gone to get it down, to get the recording down. And I guess it can be a stress, but you just have to do it. You just have to work. You can't work at a snail's pace. I tend to prefer doing things in my own space because I can go back to things, say at the middle of the night and things like that. If something comes to me, or but I mean, it's definitely a thing. I mean, the world that I operate in, I think, most people are doing it from home, and most of them can't necessarily afford to go to a studio like that. So I do like the freedom that you have with home recording setup.
Do you mainly record at night?
No, I don't actually. I'm actually quite disciplined. I mean, I'm in the studio by 8:30, 9 every day when I'm at home. Unlike a lot of musicians, I would say. And I usually kind of stop when my wife gets home from work, unless there's something pressing that needs to be done. But I do tend to keep office hours, which I think is kind of good for my mental balance, I think.
I've started to do that this year.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you do just drive yourself insane, don't you?
Yeah.
You can just work. So when your wife comes home, that's when you go, right, my day's done now.
Well, yeah, mainly because if dinner's not on the table when she gets home, she's not a happy bunny.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm in trouble, or at least made to feel like I'm in trouble. But I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously from time to time you have, you have to pull like a 16-hour shift or whatever. I don't like to call it a shift because that deglamorizes it a little bit, but essentially they are sometimes. But yeah, generally I kind of stick to the office hours.
That's good,
for want of a better term. Yeah.
So when I was reading up about rack, because I thought I should come with some facts like the school facts.
You're gonna tell me more than I know.
Well, I was going to tell you, I was looking at other people that have recorded here.
Yeah.
Who can afford to record here? This list of names,
or could afford to,
depending
on which way you look at it.
They were okay. I'll read you a few. This is
hit me.
This is tip of the iceberg stuff.
All right, let's go.
Because Sting was on the list as well, but I've not included him.
Of course,
of course, Sting was there.
Of course, he was.
Okay, the list I've written down, some big names. It's David Bowie.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Here,
yeah.
Michael Jackson here. Okay, now I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's good, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jackson's a good one. Al Green.
All right.
Pink Floyd. I kind of get that. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Adele. Shakira.
Wow.
XTC.
All right.
Radiohead.
They didn't record Plans for Nigel.
I'm not sure what they recorded here. This is the thing. It didn't actually tell me what these people
were recording. The local
were
historian.
Okay.
What album did XTC?
What did XTC do
here?
I don't know.
We'll look into that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, find out. Yeah.
Maybe Google that. Yeah. Come back to us. We'll check in on that in a minute. Depeche Mode, Radiohead, and Shed 7.
All right.
Okay.
That's a list.
It's a list, isn't it?
That's a good list.
It's
also maybe the local historian can find out which Depeche Mode album or whatever was recorded here.
Okay, you're getting to work now.
Yeah.
It's great having a live researcher.
I know,
this is excellent.
It's so good. Well, I mean, you've already clearly done your research, but me, I've just got look at me.
You don't
shirking responsibility over here.
Do any of those names do anything for you?
Yeah,
musically?
Of course. Yeah, Michael Jackson was. I was beyond obsessed with Michael Jackson as a child.
Me too.
Yeah, I actually went to see Michael Jackson on his Dangerous World Tour. My mother took me for my birthday, maybe 9, 10. I can't remember what year it was even, but that was something.
I went to the history tour.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first show. That was the first show I went to, and that is my brag.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the thing that I say it to a lot of people.
That was the first concert you went to. Yeah. So Snap, same with me. Yeah.
It doesn't really get much better than that. What was it the Wembley show you went to?
It was the Wembley show. Yeah, he left Wembley Arena in a jetpack.
Yeah, I saw it. I remember watching it on TV.
Yeah. I in another interview actually, I mentioned this the other day, but I remember there was like one of these Michael Jackson looky-like kind of people milling around in the crowd before the show, dressed up, exactly like him, looking exactly like him. And I was convinced that this was Michael Jackson. And I was like, I was trying to get my mum to let me to go and introduce me to him. And she's like, it's not him. It's like, it is, look. It's clearly him. Look,
bless us for not saying,
saying,
oh, come on then, let's go meet Michael.
Come on, yeah. I could have met Michael Jackson that day in my own mind, but there we go.
So you grew up on Michael Jackson?
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I was a big fan, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like my first kind of music that I got really, really into as a kid,
Yeah. Was it the Dangerous album? Was it bad?
It was bad, actually, I think, that got me into it. And then I was still into it. Come Dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. He lost me after Dangerous, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up a little bit after that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible to say. I still love Michael Jackson, but, when you go... I guess I discovered punk music shortly afterwards or something,
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is whilst you were living in Worcester at the time?
Yeah.
Which is where you grew up. You were born there?
I was actually born in London.
Okay.
Yeah. My mum and dad, when they were together, used to run the Museum Tavern pub.
Here in London?
Yeah, the Museum Tavern. It's in Kensington, I believe. I know, I'm so sorry, yeah. It's by like the Natural History Museum or that kind of area, but it's called the Museum Tavern. and that's where I was. I was born where I lived when I was first born.
And what age did you move to Worcester?
I'm going to say 3 years old. I'm really terrible at years and stuff, but it was around the age of 3 or something like that. Yeah.
I went to Worcester fairly recently. My brother's moved up that way.
Oh, okay.
I went up. I'm pretty sure it was Worcester. I went on the cathedral roof.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing, right?
Worcester Cathedral is a beautiful cathedral.
It's amazing.
First use of flying buttresses, I believe.
That's a good fact. That's the kind of stuff this podcast needs.
Yeah, in the UK or maybe even Europe, King John is buried there.
He is, but when I was there was some scaffolding over his because it's inside, isn't it?
It's inside. It's right in the middle. Yeah, his tomb or whatever.
They had a concert going on and they'd put in rate seating.
Okay,
so I missed that, but I did go up on the roof, and you have to climb up. It feels like you're climbing up like a hidden staircase.
Yeah, it is a little bit, isn't it? But it's beautiful. And my other Worcester Cathedral fact is that it was used on the back of the £20 notes for a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was Worcester like as you were growing up, post Michael Jackson?
It was
teenage times.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I was listening to a lot of punk and hardcore at the time, and there were some guys that used to put shows on in whichever pub would let them have the back function room or whatever for £2 or something like that, and they wouldn't get huge names or whatever, but anyone who was kind of on the touring circuit, they would kind of bring through a lot of metal and things like that, so it was fine, and I used to spend a lot of time skateboarding. And
were you quite an outgoing kid?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I was. Yeah, that's actually how I met Andy. From my band, was through skateboarding in Worcester.
Right, he was doing it as well.
Yeah.
So when you meet Andy, was it a case of, was that pure luck? Because of the music of Fuck Buttons is a very specific sound.
Yeah.
I grew up in Southend, and if I had been into that sound, I think the chance of me finding the other person in Southend that liked that would be so slim. Was it like that, or was there kind of...
No, it was a little different, actually. I actually met Andy through some mutual friends, and we skateboarded a little bit together, when we lived in Worcester. Then I didn't see him for a long time until I went to Bristol. I went to university in Bristol. I studied illustration. And then I recognised Andy as someone being from Worcester, and I was like, oh, hey, we used to skate together. And we actually started the band in Bristol, and there was like kind of a lot of like-minded people who liked weird music in Bristol. So he was just one of those people, but it more came about because we knew each other from years ago when we used to skateboard when we were teenagers.
And you knew, did you when you met him, did you instantly kind of click into what became the Fuck Button sound?
He had he was making short films for his fine art course, and we thought we used to go out drinking and stuff together or whatever, and we decided that we would have a crack at soundtracking one of these short films he made, and then and it worked out pretty well, so we just carried on making music from there, really.
And do you still skateboard now?
No, I don't.
When was the last time you were on a skateboard?
When was the last time I was on a skateboard? There's a skateboard in my hallway at the moment that I can't get rid of just in case, but I mean, last time I went to a skate park with a friend of mine who lives in London called Conan, and we went to a skate park maybe about 6 years ago, and all the kids were just tearing it up, It was just like embarrassing. I felt like an embarrassing dad or something, trying to, like I was maybe going through a midlife crisis or something. But if I was good, I wouldn't have felt like that. But they were all so much better than me, and I was like, we got to put an end to this right now.
I live opposite a skate park in Camden, and some of the kids in there are like 5-year-old
unbelievable
kids. Fearless. I think it's the fearless nature of youth, isn't it, I guess. But a lot of them are in there on scooters now.
Oh, okay. I mean, whatever you want, that's fine. But
yeah, there's kind of like tribes, you know. There's like the
Yeah.
scooter tribe, and then there's the.
I mean,
but the
there was
skateboarders
always-
are amazing, and they're such
Yeah.
tiny kids.
yeah,
It's
oh, it makes you sick, doesn't it?
I never really got very far with it. I used to be quite into it, but I could only ever ollie up a curb. That was as good as I got.
I got all right. I used to throw myself off like big sets of stairs, and I would have like a maybe 1 out of 10 success rate or something like that. I mean, I was never very technical, but I had some balls, you know.
Yeah, that's half the battle, I think.
That's half the battle. But now I just if I break something, do you know what I mean? I can't do my job.
And you'd have to explain at the hospital that you were skateboarding.
And they're like, yeah, they'd be like,
They'd be
well,
like, dude,
you know.
grow up. Come
Yeah.
on.
It's terrible to say though, because like, you know, there are still people our age who do it and are good.
And are great,
but-
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you just need to kick in it. But I mean, the punk music you were listening to at the time, that just goes so hand in hand with skating and that culture, doesn't
That culture, yeah, they definitely, yeah.
Who were
they definitely
the
go hand
big
in hand.
bands for you?
Who are the big bands for me? I mean, you know, when I went through a lot of phases as well during that time. I mean, I would listen to stuff like the Misfits and NoFX, even things like that. You
Okay.
know, when I first
That was
started
big around
skating.
then, though, because I think
Yeah.
we were around the same age, and I remember that
Rancid,
being
you know, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Who I still have time for. I still have time for all these bands, really. Not so much NoFX anymore, but I would listen to it if it came on. And then I guess grunge happened after that, and Nirvana were the big thing for me, who I still love, and Soundgarden. But I mean, yeah, I mean that kind of culture, skating definitely goes hand in hand with it, doesn't it?
So you started Fuck Buttons in Bristol,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved to London, I presume.
Yeah, that's right. I actually moved back to Worcester for a little bit, and then moved to London. Pretty much when Fuck Buttons first started, just before our first tour, I moved to London just before that. Yeah.
On the name Fuck Buttons, I'm only mentioning this because you mentioned it, because I like that you had to say earlier.
Yeah. I was just
I'm
being
okay
polite.
to swear, right? It's okay to swear.
Such a polite nihilist.
I like that it's got to a point where, because I remember Fuck Buttons coming out, and I remember the first record, and thinking, what a great name. But I never really thought it would be an issue, like the expletive in it,
Yeah.
because of the world you exist in.
Yeah.
But now there is times where I will see it written as F buttons
Yeah.
in things.
Yeah. I mean, when we first started it, we didn't think we were going to be playing anywhere outside of the pub down the road in Bristol. Do you know what I mean? And there were a couple of occasions where there was talk of some kind of self-censorship, but my roots and the punk in me would be like, well, you know, fuck that. Why should I change my name for somebody else's benefit? I'm still glad we didn't.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Does it feel weird, the places that the band's gone to, which essentially, well, I mean, when you see it edited, it's because it's in a realm that is probably outside where you thought it would be.
Existing. Yeah, I mean, you know, say for example the Olympics, you know, when they use Blanck Mass and Fuck Buttons in the Olympics, it's F buttons, you know, because you know, it's a family show.
You can't have Lord Co.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. The Queen will be there, you know.
Did that around that whole time of I remember watching the Olympic opening ceremony. I'm a big fan of the Olympics anyway.
Yeah.
I get quite caught up in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was very excited about it being here.
Yeah.
And we had a party at my friend's house for the opening.
Yeah.
And as soon as it started, and Fuck Buttons was the first sound of it.
Pretty much,
from what I
in that
remember.
opening kind of like video sequence, yeah.
And I was with a friend of mine who knows your music as well, but a lot of my other friends don't. And we kind of looked at each other and was like, that's a Fuck Buttons song. And that was kind of like, did your phone go mental at that point?
I think enough people knew about it. I mean, we had to
Beforehand.
sign disclaimers and stuff like that, but you know, close family and stuff. I was like,
they were
come on.
tuning in to watch it.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, it did to a certain degree. Yeah, I would be lying if I say it didn't. Is this your music?
And there were some Blanck Mass tracks on there as well.
Yeah, there was actually more Blanck Mass than Fuck Buttons in there. Whenever there was any,
it was a flag thing, wasn't it?
Or like when
the torch came in.
The torch came in. That was always Sundowner from the first Blanck Mass album with the London Symphony Orchestra, which I went to see being recorded around the corner at Abbey Road, and that was quite something. Yeah.
Was that in the big room there?
That was in the big room. Yeah, there was like a 60-strong string section and a 30-strong brass section, the London Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
And Rick Smith took me in to meet them all, and I was like, bloody hell.
And do they are you introduced to the orchestra and they said,
I was introduced as
this is his
the
music?
Composer, yeah.
And you do a little bow.
I did a little bow, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, that's quite an experience to...
Yeah, that was very cool, yeah.
To kind of do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is soundtracking something... Soundtracking seems so... I mean, you say that you and Andy started off soundtracking some of his art
like
pieces.
a short, like a uni project, basically. But
that kind of feels like now the music you make is so fit for images.
I mean, everything, all of these albums have such like a strong sense of narrative in them. Anything that I do, I mean, soundtracking is something that I've done a little bit of, but I'm want to, and hopefully I'm going to be doing a lot more of. And
now you're not living down here at all. You're living in Edinburgh.
I live just outside of Edinburgh now, yeah.
Where you've been for maybe a couple of years, because I remember you were in the magazine.
3 years,
you just moved, yeah.
3 years.
What was it that made you want to get out of this town?
Well, my wife and I wanted to get out of London because it was starting to get a little claustrophobic, and obviously we wanted to find somewhere that could be ours. And she was actually born in Edinburgh. I really liked it from when I'd been touring there. I'd always, whenever we were there, I just felt this kind of, I could really see myself living here. It's beautiful. The architecture's all Gothic, and it's really nice. So, so that was that really. And we lived in town for the first year when we arrived, like right in the city centre. And now we live 15 miles outside of town, and it's a little more rural. But it definitely is a change from living next door to the Shacklewell Arms, which I did for about 6 years.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Were you like in that row of building that's is directly next door to the pub?
Yeah, that band, The Horrors, had a studio,
Milo's
and I think
place.
That's where I lived.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, Milo's place.
Yeah, I went there once to do to meet him. It had like a little courtyard. Didn't it used to be like a dairy farm or something?
Yeah, that's right. It used to be a dairy. And Fuck Buttons actually had I made a studio space in there for Fuck Buttons.
Right.
And Blanck Mass as well. In that courtyard bit, which I believe. Oh, actually, I don't know. I was about to say such and such has it now, but I don't know if that's right to do. Is it?
Okay.
Because there might be people fans of Mr/Mrs. X that I maybe shouldn't mention.
Okay.
Maybe people already know. I don't know. But anyway, there's a studio in there too.
Yeah. That is right in the middle of. That's in the thick of it, though. I mean, a busy place to be, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean. My bedroom window faced onto the street outside the Shacklewell Arms as well. So when chucking out time, it was very difficult to not get woken up.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So what's your kind of basic, typical daily regime up in Scotland? In the studio at 8.
I mean, really depending on what time my wife goes to work, because I get up when she does. And then I go into the studio. Maybe I have to answer a couple of emails. Maybe I don't, depending on what's going on. And then, straight into the studio.
And is that a case of, are you just making things, are you just constantly in there making music? It's not like you're in the studio, but you're in the studio providing you've decided you're going to make this new record, for example.
I mean, it depends what's going on. Sometimes there's remixes and things like that to do, or mixing for something that already exists. But the real fun is when I get to, there's no set goal in mind, and I just get to play around with whatever I have in there, and then build up a library of stuff.
And what's your setup? It's like a home studio, but where is it? Is it in the garage, or is it in a spare room? Or
it's actually in the kind of spare room bit, yeah. And it's good, it's like it's not huge, but I can fit stuff in there. I mean, I couldn't fit a drum kit in there,
no,
but I can fit all my gadgets in there, no problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere you can make as much noise as you.
I can make as much noise as. I mean, I've tested it out. We're directly below as well, so it's actually essentially in the eaves of like an old house that was built in 1773. I think the house was built.
Okay.
And the studio is up in the eaves, so directly below the studio is our space again. So, we don't have neighbours directly below the studio, so it's actually quite handy. I mean, it's a small space, so it doesn't need much to fill it anyway, but it's nice to know that if I do want to, try and make my own ears bleed, then I can without affecting the neighbours too much.
Yeah. Has the fact that so you're out in the sticks a little bit more,
yeah,
as opposed to the centre of town, has that affected the output, the music?
I would, yeah. I mean, I think you'd be far stretched to find somebody whose geographical location didn't have some impact on the record, whatever that may be. I mean, and it's difficult to say how it has impacted it, but I mean, Dumb Flash was written in 3 or 4 different locations, and World Eater was written solely in this space. So maybe it might sound a little bit more direct and cohesive, perhaps. I don't know, but that's how I did it anyway.
So the title World Eater, which is an incredible. I mean, that's put the bar here for titles of the year.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I think so.
Like, that's cool.
It's.
I didn't realise, but there's a Bolt Thrower song called World Eater that somebody asked me about the other day, and apparently there's also like a comic book character
called World Eater. I mean,
the World Eater or something like that. Yeah, I don't read comics, but apparently there is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so how did that come to you? That
I mean, the theme of the album is about this inner beast that this kind of evolved hangover that we have. It was still very territorial, and that is the World Eater, I guess. I mean, you can interpret it however you want to. Also, maybe the humans are the World Eaters, and we're destroying ourselves. But
is it it sounds like, because it's a dark record. I guess it's a dark record for a dark time. Our current, you wrote it last year, right?
Yes, yeah.
Which is, I don't know if you know this, but apparently it was the worst year in the history of the world last year, as we all have to say at any given opportunity.
Yeah.
Did you feel? How did your 2016 feel?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult for somebody of reasonable privilege to really put a finite measure on how bad it was, but I mean, a lot of shit went down and still is going down, and things aren't right, and human beings are fucking horrible, and it's difficult for me to say. I mean, sure, there was but all these things affect you, don't they?
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I didn't have a great year. I didn't have as bad a year as some people in this world, though.
Yeah. I think that's important to remember.
Of course,
because a lot of people,
so.
I think we kind of did all get a little bit too hysterical.
Well, I mean, it's difficult not to when things are so fucked up, isn't it? I think, but it is important to remember, I think. But I mean, you feel towards people who are going through things a lot worse than you, don't you? That's another. It is possible to feel empathy, and that affects you too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the record, World the music on World Eater, is it a direct reaction to last year? And
well, I mean, you know, it was written over a reasonably small space of time for me anyway last year, and you know, all of this stuff was going on at the same time. And as I was saying before, you know, you are a manifestation. You know, what you put out as art is you know, does manifest itself as from what is going on around you, I would say. I mean, I never try and, you know, sit down in the studio and go, right, I want to write a hip hop track today. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it's almost like automatic writing. So, and experimentation. So what's going on, it definitely has some impact. So to answer your question in one word, yes.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe you just don't know exactly. Was there a trigger or a particular thing that got you going on writing this record? Are you like, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to the studio and expressing myself?
See, that's the thing. It wasn't a protest record. That would be a protest record. That would be reactionary. And whilst it is like reactionary to a certain degree, I'd say it's more of a kind of like a recognition as opposed to a reaction. The overall theme is more of, it's more of a recognition. So, and also I'm constantly writing. I don't kind of wake up one day and say, you know, oh, I'm going to start writing my new album today. Yeah. It doesn't really work like that.
What I like about the record is, although it's dark, it's got obviously a dark overall tone. Mm-hmm. There are tracks on it, like Please, for example.
Yeah.
When I'm guessing you're going to play some shows to support the album,
mm-hmm.
and when you play those, you're going to be up there, and that track's going to come on, and people are going to just probably kind of lose their shit, but in a joyful, happy, like throwing their arms in the air kind of way.
It's funny because I actually see that track as quite the emotional palette within that track. I actually find it quite melancholy. Right. I actually find it quite sad, but that's everybody sees things differently, don't they? I mean, you know, some people may find it, as you say, like joyous, uplifting. I feel like it's more of a kind of, I mean, that if I was to try and analyze that one, I would say that was maybe me trying to make some kind of subconscious effort to bring some like personal balance amidst all the madness, I think.
Yeah. Seeing as last year was as we've already established, the worst year ever. How's I'm feeling good about this year. I feel like I'm the only person saying this. Certainly in my circle of friends. Yeah. I know everything's going to shit.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? I mean, because you're about to enter a year of, you've got your new record, and that's quite exciting time.
Of course, yeah. I don't really know yet, actually. I mean, there's obviously some there's some great that has come from the bad, for sure. But it's very early days to say how things are going to go. I don't know. I mean, my nihilistic tendencies sometimes have a louder voice than, you know. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm just trying to kid myself. Maybe that's
I don't
it.
know. Maybe, but maybe there's hope is, you know, also quite important. I think, you know.
Well, thanks very much for being a guest on the podcast. Before we go though, where do we get on these facts? The XTC record.
The Big Express.
It's the Big Express.
Okay.
And Depeche Mode was Exciter.
Oh, Exciter. Okay.
What year?
Right.
What year was that? Do we know the year on that?
That was a little.
Sorry, no, we don't need to go back.
Oh, no.
That's good enough.
But where you grew up, I don't know where that is.
Worcester.
No, with the pub.
Oh, the Museum Tavern. It's still called the Museum Tavern.
Is it still there, the pub?
Yeah. It's still there.
It's around. I'm guessing it's around all of the Natural History Museum and all of
that kind of area. In fact, I'm pretty sure my dad said that he was in there not too long ago.
Okay.
Also, Thor, the World Eaters.
Oh,
is that the comic?
Well, I don't know. I looked up comic with World Eaters, and that's what came up.
Okay.
Whether that is or not, who knows?
Oh, well, there we go. Anyway, it's not in reference to a comic book.
This is good. I feel we've got some closure.
Yeah.
There are no facts.
Yeah. That's good.
Excellent.
You need a
fact
fact checker for like every interview.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You free tomorrow for another one of these? Ben, thank you very
Nice
much.
one. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Midnight Chats is a loud and quiet podcast. Production by Emma Snook. Music courtesy of Gold Panda. Search Midnight Chats on iTunes for more episodes and to subscribe. For more information, visit loudandquiet.com.